Howdy, folks. I'm Rebecca Jolly, the Jolly Alchemist, and today I am looking at the transits in a little bit different way. And since it's kind of interesting, I thought maybe you would like to join in and check it out. What happened is I noticed that the transits are getting kind of boring. And I thought, why the fuck is that? Why am I going through these same numbers over and over again and always saying over and over, oh yeah, well, we just went through this and this, we just went through this again, and did it. And so I thought, shit, we need to look at this. So I pulled out all my information and started looking at the periods. And so that's what I want to just show you and just talk about it, just see what I'm looking at. So I'm going to switch the camera and then show you what it is that I'm seeing. Here we're looking at the screen that I'm looking at. All right, and we can see what it is that I'm looking at. So what I'm looking at is not necessarily right here any specific transit, but the periods. So over here we see the planets. And what I'm looking at, okay, is here's the length of a day. All right. Now, it's not actually a day because the day line number is actually slightly less than a day, as you can see. Let's see if I can show you well, anyway, just take my word for it. All right, so then we have the nodes here that are shifting in way long cycles, so we're not even seeing those numbers shift at all right there. We have the moon that moves crazy fast. And here's why we're noticing all this repetition. It's because the cycles, the periods of Mercury and Venus are so short. And they just happen to be right now at a time when they're switching up and swinging all around to the same kind of thing. So okay, here. So we're looking at all these different kinds of ways of looking at the same kind of information. Here we have a snapshot of the transit just when I took it. So whenever that was, right? It doesn't matter. And then how it affects me and my chart over here. Then here we have the transit information of the snapshot just by itself on the wheel. So the same thing that I was showing you down here when I was looking at the transit like this, you can see over here where you can see, okay, look, we're in 63, 64. So that's an opposition on the wheel there. The nodes also move in an opposition, and they're right next to that. Okay, well, it also happens that we have the moon starting off what will be today's transit on a node. So, okay, fine. And then, interestingly enough, and you can see why that is. The nodal configuration is right before the daily transit. So now we're doing 60, 64, 63. Next, we'll move into doing 47, 22, and the nodes and the sun and earth will be on the same day. Okay, fine. So what we're looking here is actually at Mercury, which has been repeating what the day cycles have been doing because it's moving faster than the sun. It just so happens that all this time I've been doing the transits, and then closer and closer Mercury has been getting to just scooping up behind the day and catching there. So that's why I'm having all these repeats there. But pretty soon Mercury's going to overtake the day because the period is shorter. So let's look at that down here. So then let's find Mercury and come back here. There we go. To right now-ish, where we see Mercury's on 40, okay, on the 6th of September. Fine. And we've just been through 40, right? So then it's going to catch up here when Mercury moves to 64, and it's just starting to catch the end where you have Mercury starting at the beginning of 64 and then 64 itself starting at finishing off and moving into 47. But it won't be but a few days. until Mercury catches up with the sun, and we have that 47 going at the same time, and then of course Mercury will overtake. They'll run together for a while, or very, very close in synchronization, but of course Mercury will overtake. And so whereas Mercury has been shadowing behind for weeks, getting closer and closer and closer, we're almost at the transition point where Mercury will switch, and then Mercury will start foreshadowing what's coming ahead in the transit instead of following up behind and giving us what's there. See, here we can see. Now it's starting to foreshadow. Mercury's showing 46, but the sun hasn't yet moved to that. But you can tell 46 will be next. Boom. Right there. As it goes through. Okay, so that's Mercury. Now we look at Venus. And if you're just looking at Venus regular, you can see that the period of Venus is, let me find one where they're like about starting at the same, there, right there. You can see when the sun starts at 47.6, the period of Venus is maybe like 3/4 of a day, whereas Mercury is like half of a day. So this one is going to be moving slightly slower, but it's also swinging around the wheel just behind. Check out the wheel up here. We see, where is Venus? Right there. So Venus is right now, back as of this snapshot, back on 7. Which is still where we've just been in our transits, at least as far as I'm concerned, in my explanations. This is the other one where I'm always having to say, oh yeah, it's repeated. So Venus is swinging around a little bit slower, so Mercury is going to swing and overtake the sun and the moon real quick here. And then it will be foreshadowing where we'll be going with the sun. And then Venus on a slower scale is also going to eventually catch up, swing, and overtake. But by that time, we'll see Mercury all the way over here. So it's just a matter of the different periods and cycles that are giving us this foreshadowing, or it's aftershadowing here, but it will become soon, in the case of Mercury, foreshadowing, and then the Venus will continue to drag behind for a while, but because it's only 3/4 of a day length, it will catch up. And then it will also start to foreshadow. So for a while here still, we're going to have this copycat energy, just very shortly, from Mercury, and still happening from Venus. But Mars is already ahead. So Mars is already foreshadowing, actually, what we're going to be experiencing coming up in the sun cycles. So now I understand why it is that it's been so boring, and I can tell you it won't be that boring for very much longer, because Mercury's already getting ready to pass, and it won't be too much longer before Venus passes either, and then we'll have these different levels of foreshadowing happening as we move out of the 3rd quarter and into the 4th. And of course, here's our Jupiter, which is slow, and then all of our outer planets are friggin' in retrograde, so they're all sitting on their asses right now and not going anywhere. Very interesting energy. So anyway, if you want to know why it is that there's so much repetition right now, and why it is that we're not seeing all that much happening around in here, but so much happening right here, that's why. It's because not only is the sun and the nodes and Mercury and Venus but also Mars sitting really and working over here on this side of the wheel. So that's it. So there we have it. This is the Jolly Alchemist shedding a little more light on this transit energy. So until next time, take care.